You are the only animal on this entire planet that cannot eat its own food raw. Think about that. A lion can rip into a raw zebra. A chimpanzee can spend 6 hours a day chewing raw leaves and fruit. A cow can eat grass all day forever, but you? Hand a modern human a raw potato, a fistful of raw wheat, and a chunk of raw deer meat, and tell them that's all they get. And within a few weeks, they will start to starve. We are the only species that has to cook. And the strangest part is this. The reason we have to cook is also the reason you have a brain big enough to wonder why. Welcome to Archaia. For most of the last 2 million years, our ancestors ate the way every other animal eats. Raw, cold, whatever they could find, exactly as they found it. And then, somewhere along the way, one of them did something no creature on Earth had ever done before. They took their food and they put it in the fire. That single decision, by some unnamed ancestor, somewhere in Africa, more than 1 million years ago, may be the most important thing any human has ever done. More important than the wheel. More important than writing. More important, arguably, than every invention that came after it. Because cooking is the thing that made all of those inventions possible. Let me explain. To understand why, you have to understand the problem with being a primate. A brain is an extraordinarily expensive organ to run. Your brain is about 2% of your body weight, but it consumes around 20% of your energy. Every single day, 1/5 of all the calories you eat are burned silently, just to keep the thing between your ears switched on. Now here is the dilemma our ancestors faced. To grow a bigger brain, you need more energy. But to get more energy from raw food, you need to eat more of it, and chew it, and digest it, which takes enormous amounts of time and an enormous gut to process. A gorilla solves this problem by spending up to 8 hours a day chewing. Their entire existence is eating. They have huge bellies, massive jaws, and small brains. They simply cannot afford anything bigger. For millions of years, our ancestors were stuck in the same trap. And then fire changed the math. When you cook food, something remarkable happens before you ever put it in your mouth. Heat does the work your body would otherwise have to do. Cooking breaks down tough fibers. It unravels proteins. It gelatinizes starches. It kills bacteria and parasites. In effect, cooking is a form of digestion that happens outside the body. Pre-digestion, powered by flame instead of by your own calories. A cooked potato gives you nearly twice the usable energy of a raw one. Cooked meat is dramatically easier to chew and absorb. Suddenly, our ancestors were extracting far more fuel from far less food, in far less time, and the body responded. This is the heart of a theory proposed by Harvard primatologist Richard Wrangham in his book, Catching Fire. He calls it the cooking hypothesis, and the evidence is written into our own bodies. Because once cooking gave us access to all that extra energy, 2 things happened at once. Our guts began to shrink. We no longer needed a gorilla-sized digestive system to process raw fiber, so the body stopped building one. The human gut is dramatically smaller than it should be for a primate our size, and the energy saved by that smaller gut went straight to the brain. Scientists call this the expensive tissue hypothesis. The body, freed from the cost of a massive digestive system, could now afford to run a massive, hungry, expensive brain instead. Between our ancestor, Homo habilis, and the species that came next, Homo erectus, the human brain grew by roughly 42%. 42% in what is, in evolutionary terms, the blink of an eye. And that growth lines up almost perfectly with the moment our ancestors learned to cook. Now, when exactly did this happen? This is where it gets genuinely difficult, because fire leaves frustratingly little behind. Ash blows away, charcoal washes out, After 1 million years, almost nothing survives. But we have found a few haunting clues. In a place called Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa, archaeologists found the burned remains of grasses, leaves, and animal bones. Deep inside the cave, 30 meters in, far too deep for a lightning strike or a wildfire to have reached. Someone carried fire into that darkness, on purpose, and the layer it was found in is 1 million years old. In Israel, at a waterlogged site called Gesher Beno Yaakov, researchers found clusters of burned seeds, wood, and flint, arranged in specific spots that look unmistakably like hearths. The remains of olives, wild barley, and grapes, cooked, around 790,000 years ago. These were not people huddling near a wildfire they stumbled upon. These were people who controlled fire, who carried it, who fed it, who built their lives around it. They had a kitchen 800,000 years ago. But the cooking hypothesis says something even deeper. Because cooking didn't just change our bodies, it changed how we live. Think about what a campfire actually requires. You cannot eat a raw fruit and a cooked meal in the same way. A raw fruit, you eat the instant you find it, alone on the spot. But a cooked meal has to wait. The fire has to be built. The food has to be gathered and brought back and prepared and shared. For the first time, food was no longer something you grabbed and swallowed in the moment. It was something you brought home. The campfire became a gathering point, a place you returned to, a center. Some anthropologists believe this is the very origin of the household. The first time humans had a reason to come back to the same place, every single night, and share what they had found. The fire required patience. It required someone to tend it while others foraged. It required trust that if you went out to hunt, there would still be a meal and a group waiting when you returned. Around that flickering light in the dark, our ancestors did something no animal had done. They waited for each other. They sat together. They shared. And almost certainly, in the long hours of tending the flame, they began to talk. Now stop for a moment and consider the strange, quiet truth at the center of all this. Every meal you have ever eaten with another person, every dinner table, every shared lunch, every holiday feast, every late-night meal with someone you love, is the direct descendant of that first campfire. The big brain that you are using right now to understand these words exists because some ancestor of yours, 1 million years ago, dropped their food into a fire and discovered that it was better. You did not tame fire because you were smart. You became smart because you tamed fire. The flame came first. The mind came after. Ancient humans didn't cook because they had recipes. They didn't have kitchens or seasonings or any idea what they were doing. They had a fire and a piece of raw meat and a hunch that the two might go well together. And from that single simple act, repeated around 1 million campfires, across 1 million years, came everything. The shrinking gut, the growing brain, the household, the family, the conversation, you. So the next time you sit down to a warm meal, remember that you are not just eating. You are performing the oldest, most human ritual there is, the one that made us, us.